Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be doing my third game report, which is a game played between Quang Liem versus Fabiano Caruana. Fabiano Caruana is obviously world number two, amazing chess player, and Quang Liem is a young player, but also 2700. So they're both extremely strong players. This is a game played between Lei Quang and Fabi. Fabiano Caruana is black. Lei Quang is white. So, as you know, in higher level chess, it's extremely hard to defeat players who are higher rated than you. And Fabiano Caruana is 2800, who didn't lose a game to Magnus Carlsen in 2018. So in this game, White won, which is a slightly surprising thing. But so we want to analyze this game, and he won using the London system. And this was a game which revolutionized the London system a lot. After this loss, London system's playing growth increased by 10%. So this could be the revolutioning push. So there's also an idea which I'll discuss in this. So the game starts with d4, d5, knight. So bishop f4, knight f6, bishop f4. Again, sorry, excuse me. Again, same idea. Develop the bishop first, then the knight. It's fine. E3. Again, we discussed about this trick h5. It's a funny thing that Lei Huang Liem has fallen into this trick once by playing e3, e5, pawn takes, not pawn takes, excuse me, bishop takes, f3, bishop h5, h4, and now he spent in a blitz game thinking for 1.5 minutes what actually happened. So this actually happened, but okay, this is a super GM tournament. They're not going to play for easy tricks. So e3, e6, knight d2, c5, c5. Same idea. We discussed this in our first video. How c5 is just a normal idea. c3. He's playing for the solid variation. When he played c3, I expected this game to be a draw, because usually white doesn't play c3 if white is desperately looking for a win, but okay. c3 was played. If you look at the engine, this is dead draw, 0.00. Knight c6, knight g f3, bishop b3, bishop g3. The pretty suggested move by the computer is bishop g5, but I don't like this move in general because you are giving up this initiative on this diagonal. Bishop g5, you're pinning the knight, but it's not a big threat because queen c7 I can take, and ruining the pawn structure doesn't really do anything. So bishop g3, castles, bishop d3, b6. b6 is played extremely commonly on the GM level because they feel like this bishop is kind of stuck. Some people try this idea of playing c4 and then e5, but this is not precise because then you have a backward pawn here on d5. So they usually play b3 in the high level. Queen e2. So queen e2, again, it's a special move. Queen e2 has some ideas. As I've said in my videos, you should usually play queen c2. Queen e2, same idea, different move. Usually when you play queen c2, black fears that after queen c2, they can play c4, then bishop comes back, and then you play e4. This is what I usually played. Like in a position like this, I would have played queen e2. Then after bishop b7, excuse me, after queen c2, bishop b7, I would have went b4. It's a risky idea, but it's possible. This is what I would have done, but it's okay. Queen e2 is just a slightly more safer way of doing it. I felt like he didn't want to give Fabiano Caruana any advantages in the opening to play for. So bishop b7. First, he brought rook to d1. Rook to d1 is a proprietary move because if any exchanges happen in the d file on the d file, he just wants to make sure this rook is extremely ready to stay in play. It's a tough position to analyze here because you feel like rook d1 is slightly unnatural. You should usually castle first, and these pawns can look slightly undefended, but it's just this b3 moves. This b3 move usually just doesn't allow black's queen to come on the queen side. Because usually when black doesn't play b3, there's a lot of possibilities of queen coming to a5, and then this rook is pretty useful in defensive play. But after b3, you are pretty fine, and you can bring it to the d file. Rook e8, developing move, e4. E4 here is not a bad move. but I feel like it's slightly risky because you usually feel like castling footage, but it actually works because if you go into some deeper analysis of takes, knight takes, you can feel like your king's still not castled and that or you're opening up the center before castling. But if you look at the position, it's extremely hard for black to attack. All of the black pieces are not passive, but they're not anywhere close to attacking. This bishop of b7 is like an important piece, but this d pawn is being annoying itself. Rook will open, but the thing is the e6 pawn, sorry, the his own e6 pawn is not very helpful. Queen on d1 is what I feel is the biggest setback for black. If the queen was somewhere out, I don't know. I don't think it's fair for the queen, but if the queen was out, then there's some attacking chances. But right now, it's all under control. E4, e5, e5 is where I feel like Fabiano Caruana felt like he pushed too much. I feel he didn't do anything wrong. Looking at his position, everything is solid. King's castle. I think he played e5 because he wanted to. If he saw some exchanges coming with some pawn takes and or like pawn takes, knight takes, he always wanted to make sure that this rook was always open, and he has some potential. That's why I usually don't play my king to e2 because I really don't want to stay away from all these tricks. But okay, queen on e2, c2 doesn't make a big difference as long as you're defending this e4 pawn. So e5, pawn takes, knight takes. So I feel like knight takes was not a good move here. It's better to play. It's better to play bishop takes. Bishop takes is better because after you when you play knight takes, we got knight takes, bishop takes, f4, which was played in the game. After f4, this position is extremely scary as white. But if you calculate everything, so I actually want you to think here. The move which was played here was d takes e4. How do you play this as white? The position looks extremely bad for white because this bishop is starting to get some potential. This bishop on e5 is currently hanging, but now the queen is open. Eventually, as this pawn keeps rolling, the rook will start getting active. Knight could eventually is currently defending the pawn, but knight g5, knight g4 is possible. This position looks extremely threatening for black, but actually it's better. Maybe not winning, but slightly better for white. So I want you to find the correct move for white here. So if you thought of the move, it's not that hard. Bishop b5. Bishop b5, just everything's collapsing now. This rook is gone, your important rook. Bishop's under attack. Uh, and now it just feels like I can castle next move, and it's black who's kind of in trouble now. This pawn is now getting weak after this rook is going, because this rook was one of the major defenders. Yes, you have knight and bishop, but I also have some attack, and now this rook is getting potential because the d file is now open. So it's just suddenly just flipped to white being better. Bishop goes back. I don't doubt this move. You're sacrificing the exchange, which makes sense because you would rather give the rook for the bishop because light square bishop is extremely strong. And after the trade of light square's bishop for the rook, this bishop eventually starts becoming strong. Because that's I've lost a main defender, but it was okay. Knight c4, gaining a tempo on the queen. Normal move. Queen comes c7. Now you take. Rook takes. And here, white conveniently, to stop all attack, any potential ideas, no tricks, knight e3. If you don't play knight e3 and you allow e6, then I feel like it eventually gets scary because now you're opening this bishop, which is coming to g2. I felt like knight e3 was an extremely important move and was necessary to be played here. Yeah, so now knight on e3 is just killing all hopes for black. This bishop here is now going to be hitting a rock after black castles because the rook will also be defending it. This pawn on e5, which had some potential, is now just stopped by the knight. Rook and queen are currently hitting a rock. I don't see any ideas there. And it's white who just has some play. You first of all have material advantage, which is enough to get something. But this rook on the d file has got some potential. So knight e3 I feel like is the most important move in white and to allow zero counterplay for black. So knight e3, as black, you wonder what can you do. You okay? While your black goes for some queen e6, trying to hit some pawns, but white just conveniently castles, saying, "Okay, you can take my pawn, but don't worry, I will eventually get my rooks. It's my pieces who are active because there's no attack. The double bishops are not helping at all." So queen comes to c6, looking for some potential because we don't have a light square bishop. Black does. So using the double bishops, but there's nothing there. f5. F5 is played, so black doesn't get any pawn advances. I feel f5 was mainly played for that, so there's no annoying h3, h6, g5 moves trying to open up the game because that's the only hope. So f5, you're basically just pressing on black's kingside pawns, so nothing is advancing. Bishop takes is a move which I don't like too much, but it's the only move because you're trading pieces. Moving the bishop to d8 just looks passive, so this is a good move. G takes h6. H6, I just don't get the point of. I think it's just like avoid any back rank issues. Maybe you want to bring your rook out, so just annoy and stop any annoying plans. Rook d2, simple plan, doubling. Queen goes to c7. Queen f queen f2. I think it was to trade queens. Bring the queen to f5. It's a nice square, and you have some potential. Bishop a6, c4. What white is doing here is just because of the London system structure. These double pawns are not too weak. This pawn on f5 looks pretty good. Having a pawn on c5 just is just saying that black can do nothing, and all white is doing is pressing on the position with the material advantage and the control of the d file. It's not allowing any counterplay. And again, Fabiano Caruana, he's world number 2, so he's not just gonna be not gonna allow his opponent to step on him. He goes for some push, b5, b3, takes. Again, you're shutting down this bishop. If h5, h5, I won't say is a good move, but it's a move looking for some hope. h5, but you have nothing. Like I don't see a way that the only other possible plan, which is probably not good, is king h7, rook h8, king comes back to g8. But obviously, this plan is useless because I have too many pieces. The knight is here. It automatically stops any piece from coming to g5. Knight takes, pawn takes. I have a solid position. Queen is here, defending all pawns. And I can easily just move my rook to d8, bring the king to f7, king to d2. I can transfer myself to the queen side because if you play rook, king h7, rook h8, king comes back, you are pretty much killing yourself by putting your rook on a very, I wouldn't say aggressive, but a trapped square. And the rook cannot come back into the game after my king escapes. Queen f4, trading ideas. So you trade after this. I feel like there is no plan. After trading, it's just I feel like Black felt maybe going into the end game will give him some hope because in the middle game there is currently no attack and all attack is stopped. King f7. I won't say it's a dubious move, but it's a strange move, which I don't really understand. Rook d6, just getting good pieces. Bishop, now it's black is trying to be solid with its own pieces, but there are too many hanging pawns. These isolated pawns here are just too weak, I feel, and it's hard to control. King comes out, rook comes to c8. Rook c8, idea just defending your weak pawn. At this point, if Fabiano Caruana was just hoping for a draw because there is no plan for black here, it's just to defend. Rook h4, because this king is now on h7, you're hoping for some moves like g4. King comes back to h8. Rook h1, seeing that this rook has to leave. So I think the only helpful thing was after rook h4, at least you didn't lose a tempo trying to develop your move. You lost two moves, but at least one move you got something back. Bishop c6, it's just slowly developing the position. Rook hd1, obvious move, controlling the open file. Rook comes to uh, rook comes to c7. Rook c7. You're just making sure no tricks on the last rank. You're just trying to be safe here, but I feel like the position is too destroyed. Rook check on d8. Uh, King h7, and now g4. G4 might look like a bad move, but I feel like G4 is a nice move because even if you take with king comes here and the knight takes, I have basically just said that I'm trading off pieces, and then your bishop in the end won't be able to help you out. It's just this knight which is holding on to these weak pawns over here currently. So if we go back, g4, king h6, g takes h5, king takes. This king also, the one problem the king is it's too weak on the corner. It's gonna take some time coming back in. It's pretty weak. So king does come to g5, rook comes to d8. At this point, I feel like black is pressing the position, just slow. Sorry, white is pressing, just slowly trying to get something. Knight e5, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes. Here you could see that black has a lot of pawns now. White has three pawns and black has five. So black has got the two pawns for the exchange, but it's just this rooks are way too active, and these pawns are just hanging pawns, just hoping to be taken. E6, rook comes to c6. This e6 pawn was extremely important to be here because this is the one distraction white has. Because even if you have these rooks which are pressing against everything, these rooks aren't really attacking anything right now. They can attack pawns, but they can be defended. Like if you come here, you push. Excuse me, you push, and then you're just slowly pressing. But e6 is just saying I have a slight advantage. I'll play. Rook comes to a rook comes to h6, saying that I don't want to be passive anymore. Normal rook endgame rules. Rook takes pawn with check. Now I feel scared as white because these pawns will start. Excuse me. These pawns will start rolling soon with their plans. This pawn true. There are too many passed pawns in this position. But the only hope is those pawns are extremely weak. They're not. I feel like in this position, if black had a connected passed pawn, so if pawn was like here, then I would feel like there's a lot of hope for black. And white didn't have this pawn, then I feel like black is even better here. But right now, there's nothing. King g3, g6. G6 was an unnecessary move. Instead of g6, I feel like you just have to play rook a3 check, king h2, king comes back to g6. When king comes back, you're just basically saying, I don't allow you to advance too much. King comes back, rook doubles on the file, getting some counterplay. Bishop just goes back. For this position, it's just that black, you're just trying to make sure white is not getting any crazy counterplay. G6, now white gets the important push. Rook gives check, king goes back. Now it's too late. Now you just see the sacrifice coming, takes, check. I feel like king takes was slightly better here. Because if you get check, you eventually get an active king now. That's what I feel. But g takes, your king's not active. But the only hope black had is that you have some connected pawns to push, but it doesn't work out. Check, king comes front. In this position, it might look like black has something, but the only weakness is these pawns are too far away, and the connected pawns are very close to my king, so I can slowly stop them. So the game goes on for a few moves. White just plays. While black is trying to get some push, king comes to f2. Pawn comes to c2. C2 is unnecessary. C2, you can't defend it anymore because after king comes here, you have no way to defend this pawn. It's extremely hard. So now you're losing on to your only active pass pawn, which is kind of far away. So I think a better move here was to play f4, get some attack, but okay, wasn't played. I don't mind. Then now f4, rook comes to f4, king comes back. Now you basically allow my king to get in your position. Now it's hopeless. Game goes on for a few moves. You try to push, but now you have lost too many pawns. Now even I am able to create this pass pawn. The game just goes on. I slowly defend everything, and there's nothing. If you push this pawn forward, by that time I can come here. Any pawn which queens, I takes it, and my king is extremely strong, stopping all attack. And this pawn is rolling soon. So here is where black resigns, and Quang Liem was able to defeat world number 2. And I hope you liked the video, and please subscribe and share and tell me how it went. Hopefully it goes good, and thank you for watching. The next video will be about a line in where I will talk more deeply about the e5 push and how important it can be in the center. Thank you for watching.